All right. Hey, Tammy, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I always love, learning from you and just being around you. You've been one of my great friends for a while now. And I just got your keychain in the mail yesterday. I loved it. She sent me such a cute little keychain about friendship. So I really appreciate that. Tammy, you're one of the most, you're probably the most thoughtful person that I've ever met.
Oh, well, thank
You
you.
are. You always remember everything, and I'm always getting little gifts and always knowing how much you value me and our friendship. So I hope that you know how much I value you and your friendship as well. Even though I'm not a huge gift giver, I try to show it in other ways. So I hope I make it clear.
You do. I love you.
Okay, good. All right. So Tammy, just tell us, what role does yoga play in your everyday life?
So yoga for me is it kind of uses the words that you actually probably taught me many years ago is I like to take yoga off the mat. And I'm kind of saying this in quotes because for me, the asana practice, which is just one of the eight limbs, right? I may not do asana every single day,
Mhm.
but I do some form of yoga every day, whether it's, a form of meditation, breath work, asana, or just the things that I've learned. So patience, with, maybe my daughter, my husband, or my mother, just and kindness and gratitude and all those things have just such a huge impact on my personal life. Also, even with yoga, I think that we learn about service, giving to others. And that is something that's really important to me, because I like to do volunteer work in my community. And I just feel like it all goes kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I feel the same way for sure, especially as as I've advanced in my practice, not like getting better at crazier poses. And what I mean by advancing in your practice is that I've been doing it for a long time now, right? And that's really what makes you an advanced student and also someone who does take it off their mat, because you can do all the crazy poses on the mat, but if you're not taking all the things that you're learning off of the mat, you're not getting you're not getting it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a couple things, like two of the closest people to me personally is my daughter. She's 24, she's an adult, and my husband. My husband will jokingly say, "You haven't done that yoga thing lately. I think you need to go do yoga." Like if he feels like I'm impatient or something like that. And my daughter will often say that over the course of, even the last 5 years, she's seen a lot of self growth in me. And that's really just a lot of it's yoga. And not just again the asana practice, it's the digging deep, it's the learning, it's all those things that are involved in it. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we in the West especially we get kind of stuck in doing some of those harder poses, which are great, but that's not just yoga, there's more to it.
Exactly.
Deep.
Because you can be, like I say all the time, you can be great at gymnastics and be a shitty person, like it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, you just said something else that I thought was really important, but I think it's so neat that your daughter was able to see that growth within you, and what an amazing example that's setting for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, yoga is not at least yoga in the sense of the asana is not something she enjoys at this point in her life. Maybe she will someday, but I've noticed like even she does some different types of breath work. I'm not even sure that she actually knows that's what she's doing, but I think she's
Right.
learned that with other friends. And so I jokingly say, well, you are kind of doing yoga a little bit because you're doing some breath work, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. I hope my daughter gets into it one day as well. And I think some of those things that you brought up, just some of those deeper things, it's just amazing. And I've talked with you and I've talked with some of my other trainees and just myself from personal experience. You're going through a teacher training, you're like, I'm gonna go through a yoga teacher training because I'm gonna be a yoga teacher. That's not what you were thinking. You were thinking other things, but that's usually what most people are thinking, right? And then if you continue with it and you continue to be a student, like you get so much more from it than you ever imagined. You're like, whoa, you know?
Absolutely. Yoga, I mean, for me, yoga, I mean, I remember I had a friend that went through training elsewhere and it was so life changing for her. And I was like, well, how? And we had tea and we talked about it. And I was kind of pondering doing this whole yoga teacher training with you. Do you mind if I talk about like why I ended up?
No.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So I was one of Crystal's very first yoga teacher trainees. And honestly, I was not doing yoga teacher training to become a yoga teacher. When we went around in our circle the first day, we were all kind of talking about why we wanted to do yoga teacher training. And when it got to me, I was like, well, crud, everybody else like has like a reason why they want to be a teacher. I literally did not want to be a teacher. I'm just one of these people that I love to learn new things. So I'm always like reading and learning, and Crystal was my friend, and I'm like, oh, this sounds really fun. I'm going to learn. And yeah, so it was life changing in multiple ways. I mean, you hear this a lot from people if they go through a good training, because what happens is you're digging deep in yourself, whether or not you want to. And with any training, the more that you put into it, the more that you're going to get out of it. It's not just what we do with our teacher that we're training with. We have to do the work outside of that. That's when you really grow. At least for me, that's when I really grew. And so, and then of course, in Crystal's style, part of the training is that you have to teach, and you start teaching right away. And I was not super thrilled with that. I'm being honest, because I didn't want to be a teacher. I'm like, why do I have to do this? But what I found is I actually really enjoyed teaching people and showing something that I really love and sharing that. And so I ultimately I am a yoga teacher. It's not my full-time gig, but I love it and very passionate about it. So I like to encourage people that even if you don't want to be a yoga teacher, but you just want to grow and you want to learn and you want to grow within yourself, I think taking a yoga teacher training is just amazing, because if you love yoga as a hobby or a part of your life, training is only going to bring out more of that for you. So sometimes I have a couple of friends that actually went through training and they're not teachers, but they don't regret 1 minute of taking yoga teacher training, because they grew so much and that training has helped them in other parts of their lives.
I think that that's really important, because I think a lot of times people think, well, if I'm just practice teaching all the time, it's kind of wasting time because I don't want to be a teacher. But like you said, you get so much from it. And I think that most of us know that we learn through teaching. So if you can teach the pose really well and help people to get into the correct alignment and everything, that's just going to help you deepen your own practice, not to mention strengthen your freaking throat chakra, which we know most of us need.
Absolutely. And even just taking, like for me, so I have a corporate position. So even just teaching trainings, or, even like that one-on-one, just teaching like one person in a class, that actually helped me in my corporate job, because I do trainings. I have to lead meetings. So being able to speak in a setting where I'm not being judged and I'm getting good feedback, and, from my other training, the other students and you and all that good stuff, it only helps you develop yourself. So there's like self-growth that happens that's not even just yoga related. I think everybody thinks that if you're going to yoga teacher training, that you have to be a yoga teacher. You don't have to be. You can do whatever you want with the training.
Yeah, definitely.
You can take it so many different ways.
For sure. And I think that that's important to know. And you don't have to know where you're going to go at the end. I do ask a lot of people in the beginning, what are your goals with yoga? Just because I want to make sure that we line up a little bit, but you don't necessarily have to know. You don't have to be like, well, I'm going to teach this many classes a week and I'm going to teach it here and I'm going to own a studio and I'm going to do this and that. Like, you don't have to have it all laid out, because things might change and things are going to come up and you're going to find different like demographics and niches and different things that you love doing, just like you, right? Like you love practicing vinyasa and things like that now, or you used to. And I think that you also, now you really have a deep appreciation for restorative as well, but that's not so much how it used to be. And then, you found restorative. And
yeah, absolutely. I think well, I just think in general, when you're taking, even if you're just a student of yoga, as you're growing in it, you're going to learn, you're going to change, you're going to develop. But when you're a teacher, I think I see this at a lot of teachers, even some new trainees right now. They're like, okay, so I'm going to teach here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's just part of the development process. But as you do, you kind of do niche down. I mean, I think you'll hear that word a lot. I'm doing air quotes here, but you'll hear that word niche down a lot. But I think it also, business people will tell you to do that, but it also comes a little naturally. like I am known for teaching restorative yoga. I'm known for being a trauma-informed yoga teacher. But the restorative part, I never in a million years thought that's what my niche would have been, because I generally like to take more vinyasa style classes. But
Mhm.
what I teach is totally different for the
Yeah.
most part. So you
Yeah.
just don't know where the universe is going to take you. And if you're, oh, I think the big thing is being open,
Yes.
be ready to receive what comes to you, because you just don't know.
For sure, because my business, I lead yoga teacher trainings. Now, if you would ask me that 15 years ago, I'd be like, oh, hell no, I can't do that, but I opened a studio, which I don't regret, because I was just talking to somebody the other day. If I never opened a studio, I would have never started yoga teacher trainings, because I
Absolutely.
wouldn't have had the confidence to do it. I wouldn't have had the space to do it in. I wouldn't have had the drive to make money, because that is that's one of the reasons why people start yoga teacher trainings. If you have rent to pay and things like that, which isn't the best reason, but it was one of the things that drove me, and I would have never started them. And also, I found that you have to find this balance between what you're good at, what you like, what you're good at, what you like doing, and what people want from you. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that just takes a little while. Like with you, you found people wanted that restorative from you, and they loved it because you're so good at creating that sacred environment, that just cozy, nurturing, like you're taking care of, like cocoon, like you said before we went live. You're really good at that. So, but you don't necessarily know that in the
Right.
beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. You have no idea. I mean, most of my initial classes were like a slow flow vinyasa style, and I still periodically teach those. But when I even have offerings in my private yoga space in my home, generally people say, no, can we do that restorative thing, even if they don't know what it is, because there's just great healing that comes in that. I mean, there's so many different forms of yoga, as everybody knows, but it's just what my niche is right now. And
Yeah.
could it?
And you,
Sure.
right.
For a while I was teaching a lot of prenatal yoga, and I absolutely love that. And that's a good example where that developed, where I was asked to be in the birthing room with one of my friends who had huge
Right.
anxiety issues. And when I came out of that, I was like, oh, this is so amazing. I saw the birth of a baby. And then I thought about being a doula for a short period of time. And I immediately took prenatal yoga training, and I taught a series for about a year or so. And I loved it, but it's just not like my calling. I do it now only for special people who really reach out, and I do it in the privacy of my home or their home.
Mhm.
Because in our town, there's actually Angie, one of your yoga students, who's a teacher now. I refer everybody to her because she's
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. Yeah, she is. She went through my online program, and she is awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome, Tami. Okay. So now I'm trying to get, and we've talked already so much, and then we haven't even gotten into the questions yet, but I think that people probably can already kind of see the answer to this, but what do you think has made you a successful yoga teacher?
I think for me, one of the things is really being open to what can come, open to possibilities, and just being authentic. And being who I am. I don't try to, I am who I am. So who I am in class is who you will find at the grocery store, who
Mhm.
you will find in the corporate environment, who you will find in my home. I don't act any differently. So I'm the same person all the time. And I'm just open to those opportunities as long as they align with my values. I won't go teach somewhere that doesn't align with my values or my passion or my vision. I have been asked to teach at places that it just doesn't align with what I'm feeling, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's
Right.
just I have to stick to what feels good for me. Um, so I think that's part of it. After I went through my 200-hour training, I have gone for additional certifications. Did I need those to be a teacher? Absolutely not. Again, I'm one of those people that I love trainings. I love to learn.
Mhm.
So absolutely, it can help you. It's not necessary, but I definitely can help you. But I'm very choosy about what trainings I do, who I do them with, and it takes me a long time to commit because there is a financial commitment, and you want to make sure you're doing trainings with and somebody that's good and has your best interest at heart.
Right. And that's why I know we can get, and this happens really in every different niche, because I've been in the online business world for a while, and we can get so hung up on certifications. Well, I'm going to get that certification, then I'll be ready to do it. I'm going to get that one, then I'll be ready to do it. Now I do offer certifications, and, you know, if you want to continue learning, of course, I would want you to, you know, learn with me through either my 40-hour program, or if you haven't had your 200-hour yet. But this is why I started the academy, the year-long mentorship, because it doesn't matter how many certifications you have. If you don't have that confidence and you don't have anybody helping you implement, like you're probably not going to get where you want to go, because you're not going to wake up one day and just like, okay, now I'm ready to do it, you know?
Well, yeah, and absolutely. And then unfortunately, I've seen a lot of this from other friends who have taken trainings, you know, before me. So they've taken them elsewhere. They've come out of it, great teachers, but they felt unsupported. They had said they wish there was something that was, you know, further along. So when I went through training, I was lucky because I had a couple friends that had been along the way, and they were able to be supportive to me. But also, I'm probably spoiled because you and I were really good friends before I did the training. So I had that support from you as well. But the thing is that it can't all be in the program because there's so much that you're learning at the time. But when you come out of the program and you're, ta-da, I am a yoga teacher now, it's like, crap, what do I, you know, some people probably feel like, what do I do with it now?
Right.
But there's so much you can do.
For sure.
So much.
And the thing is you just need people who, like, I'm really good at seeing possibilities. That's just one of my superpowers. So you tell me where you live, you tell me what kind of opportunities are around, what kind of, you know, then I'm going to be able to say, try this, because there's just people and people that are further along the path. Even if it's not me, it could just be somebody else who's in the academy. It's like, you know what, I was in that same situation and this is what I did. Maybe you could try that. So just having all of the support, having people like you, you know, mentors like you, that can bring in all these different perspectives, because we've all been through different things.
Yeah, absolutely. They're even like how you price things out, or feelings about, you know, I think this is something that'll probably come up in the year-long academy membership. What do you do when, you know, only 2 people come to class? You know, how does that make you feel? How do you, you know, what do you do about that? Do you go ahead and keep the class? You know, what's better, a series or teaching weekly at a studio? Well, there's just so many different perspectives to it, and it depends on the person. It's different for everybody. There's pros and cons to having a class at your house versus teaching at a studio. So there's good ways to look at that.
And the thing is that, you know, we can talk to our partners about it or our friends, but they don't get it. They might listen, but they don't get it. You know, they don't know the answers. We don't know the answers either, but we can give you an educated guess. We could say, well, this is what's worked for us, or this would probably be a really good idea. And because we just know, we've been there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So moving on, how do you continue to grow in your own practice? So I know that you're really busy, right? So tell us kind of all that's on your plate, and then how you continue to grow in your own practice despite all that.
Yeah, so I do have a very busy schedule. I am a full-time safety and ergonomics supervisor for a manufacturing facility. So that, as you can imagine, that's more than 40 hours a week. The great thing about that is, you know, I can, with ergonomics, you got it, ergonomics and yoga kind of go hand in hand. So I'm lucky in the fact that I actually teach yoga at work as well, as an added benefit to the employees, because obviously it helps with safety. It helps with stress levels, which help with safety. I am also like, and I do teach, obviously I teach yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. I teach once a week at a local, the same yoga studio that Crystal is currently teaching a weekly class at. And then I do a lot of volunteer work. That's really where my heart and soul is, volunteering. And I periodically teach for our local sexual assault center, and then some other things that are related to that. Like I teach for some women that have been through domestic violence, and probably in the near future, I'm going to be teaching for some survivors of human trafficking. This is just what I am personally drawn to, is the trauma side of, especially things that women have gone through. Not to say that I wouldn't teach this for men. It's just kind of what has been working for me. And besides that, the volunteer side of it, I personally like teaching workshops and retreats. more than anything, just because for a time, and I can have a little more freedom for creativity, you know, because you have a longer period of time to be able to teach those workshops and retreats. And I feel like I really get to know the students, and it's just, for me, it's an amazing experience. And I teach them pretty much anywhere, just depends what's going on.
So then how do you find time to fit in? What do you do for your personal practice?
Yeah, I forgot that whole part. Yeah, with all that. So with my own personal practice, I mean, I think it's really important for me personally to have a good morning routine. I get up very early every day at 5 a.m. Even on the weekends, my dogs know, they wake me up at 5 a.m., even if I don't want to get up. So I have a routine, and part of that routine is when the dogs are outside, I begin a meditation practice before I do anything else. Then usually the dogs come in, they get fed, and then I'm doing some asana practice. Now that might mean that it's 5 minutes, or it might mean that it's 30 minutes. Again, I'm not always doing an asana practice. So for me, it's very important to begin my day being grounded. That's the most important thing for me with regards to making sure that I'm doing some form of self-care with regards to yoga daily. I try to, in the evening, wind down with a little bit of meditation as well, and usually some form of a restorative class. And then what I like to do too is I like to go take classes from other teachers, not even just at my studio, at the studio that I'm currently at. All the teachers at the studio I'm currently at are all amazing, but sometimes it's nice to just go to other studios, you know, take classes with the other friends that teach, or take, you know, just specialty workshops. And because I find it inspiring, and it just really helps me to stay grounded and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's really important. I have a morning practice as well. And I've been getting up at 5:30, but sometimes I try to get up at 5, and that's just the best time of day before anybody else is up, because if everybody else is up, then you can't meditate. You hear people making coffee, you know, you hear all this, and it's just like, I got to get up and get going.
Yeah,
so I like that first thing. And I know too, if I don't do it first thing, you know, that it's a lot harder for me to do it later in the day, though I'm getting much better at meditating in the evening as well. And just kind of, you know, switching from my daytime and my hectic work and all of that to my evening. So what kinds of things, Tami, are you going to be sharing in our year-long academy?
So all kinds of things. Well, I think I can share some perspective with regards to where can you teach yoga at? There's so many different unique places you can teach yoga. I can help with setting up pricing structures and things like that, and really just holding you accountable for that daily practice of taking yoga off the mat. You know, Stephanie, who is one of your, not only your training, but she's the trauma what's the word I want? Expert. I also have quite a bit of training in that. So it's going to be really fun to learn from her, and then get my perspective on the trainings that I, you know, or the sessions that I teach locally, you know, because she's a therapist as well as other things. So just to get those different perspectives. And then I would love to share even, you know, different ways to look at restorative yoga with trauma, and just taking some of those things off the mat and just sharing in different ways like that. And I think that I am personally really good at encouraging people when get down on themselves, and helping build that confidence.
Yes.
To know that you can do whatever you want to do. It does. I mean, I became a yoga teacher in my 40s. It wasn't like I was, you know, younger or anything like that. You can do anything that you want whenever you want. And this is our time. We're rising. So ladies, you can do it.
That's right. And I think that's awesome. And you brought up a really good point about, because I really want this academy. Yes, it's mostly about teaching and, you know, building your skills and your confidence and building your business so that you can actually make money from it. But I also want to hold people accountable for their own practice, because if you're not committing to you're not going to be able to do the other stuff. My business soars whenever I take care of me. If I'm not taking that time for me, everything just plummets. And it's just how the universe works. I can't explain it. It's just how it works.
Absolutely. I was just talking about that this morning. When I'm not taking care of myself, I will notice a dwindle in signups for a workshop or a retreat or something.
Isn't that crazy?
And I think it's just the universe's way of saying, hello, time out. Maybe you need to go do something for you right now. why are you trying to do this or that? So it's really is important. I mean, whether you're a yoga teacher or you do something else in life, you've got to, especially women, we've got to take care of ourselves, really.
Mhm.
And there's so many different ways to do that, but
Yeah. And I think because we can get so focused, especially as type A people, which just a lot of people that I know are, we get so focused on wanting to make our business work. We got to make this amount of money. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. So we can really get kind of this tunnel vision, but we need to balance it out. Like what I just said. So yes, in the academy, it's going to be so important that we are going to hold you accountable to that, because otherwise you're going to experience burnout and it's not going to be sustainable.
absolutely. And the other thing that I think that I'll be really helpful in this academy is holding space.
Mhm.
That is one of my gifts. I think is just being able to hold space and allow somebody to share that vulnerability and know
Yeah.
that it's okay and you're not judged for whatever you're feeling, because it's your feelings and you have the right to be nervous, be scared, be anxious, whatever it is. And I can hold that space for you because, like you said earlier, our spouses, our friends who maybe they don't do yoga. Like my husband does not do yoga at all. And not all of my friends do yoga. So some of them don't even understand. Some of them have never been to a yoga class of mine, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But it's really important to have somebody you can connect with that has been there and understands. And I still consider myself a newer yoga teacher. I think I've been teaching for, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 years? It feels like forever, but it's not like I've been teaching for 10 years or anything. But I don't, in some ways, when you look at the numbers, I'm a new yoga teacher, but in other ways, I feel like I'm an experienced yoga teacher. I have the hours.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I think you've shared some really great stuff, and you can also share a little bit about, you teach yoga in a corporate setting, right? So that's something that you can bring in. Can you tell us just a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of my things that I love to say is that anybody can do yoga. We hear all the time all these myths and reasons why you can't do yoga. I'm not flexible. I'm not this. I'm not thin enough. I'm not whatever. And I hear this a lot in the corporate environment. But there is. I just kind of label it off as yoga in the setting that I do it in, and I will have some individuals from the office, and then I will have individuals from the factory that come in, and we are in, oftentimes people are in jeans or dress pants or whatever, and shoes are being worn, and we are using a chair and we're doing a form of meditation, some pranayama, which is breath work. Sometimes it's just checking in with ourselves, and we're doing very gentle movements, but sometimes it's usually it's at the end of the workday, but I'm going to be incorporating some in during the workday, like 15-minute sessions, which
Mm,
doesn't sound long, but if you can get 15 to 20 minutes during the day, somebody guiding you through a meditation or through breath work or gentle movement, it can change the course of your day. Because I've had, with being the safety manager for my facility, I've had people come into my office who are having downright anxiety attacks just from stress. Well, because I understand breath work, I'm able to bring them down,
mhm.
sit with them, hold space. So that's what I'm saying, is that you can take this into all kinds. Now, I'm not charging in the environment that I'm in, just because I incorporate it as part of my day, but you could easily
Mhm.
teach this at all. There's so many businesses out there that don't know that they need this until they need it.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, yeah, I would love information on that from you as well. And maybe even we can come up with some sequence for the members of the academy too.
Absolutely.
All right, Tammy. So I would love to know, we were talking about this before. So usually I ask people what your most embarrassing moment as a teacher was, but Tammy and I have been teaching for a while and we're pretty confident in our teaching skills usually. So it's harder for us to really think of those embarrassing moments because they just don't happen. Like we just don't get as embarrassed as much anymore, because we're just able to laugh it off or whatever. We have that confidence, right? So sometimes I'm going to start asking people this question if they don't have an embarrassing moment that they remember, even though I'm sure that they've happened. But what was your most challenging teaching experience? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've had a few challenging teaching experiences, but I have one in particular. I had a student who always came to all my classes, which I'm so grateful that they were able to attend all my classes. But I would there was one class I always taught. It was I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically a restorative yoga class. Oftentimes it would be yoga nidra. And here's the thing is, when in this particular studio that I was teaching at, when you came in, there was a space in the front where you could chit chat, talk, you know, take your shoes off, all that. But once you walked into the yoga studio, it was kind of expected that it was a sacred space, and that you would, you would just, be quiet, be still, maybe meditate or whatever. And unfortunately, this individual would always walk in there complaining about this or that, and how bad the day was, or how bad the weather was, or this relationship, or this or that. And I mean, it would start from the minute that student walked into the door until the time that they left. And then not only that, but whenever we would get into certain restorative poses, they would fall asleep, which that happens all the time. And trust me, that when that happens, I just am in awe, because I feel like I've done a good job at nourishing them. And sometimes people will snore, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about at all. But this particular person's snoring was so loud, it could disturb other people. So I would gently have to tap them on the shoulder or the bottom of the foot to just kind of wake them up a little bit. But I had to have a talk with them with regards to the words that they were bringing into the studio, into the setting, because it was starting to upset some of the other students, because they weren't able to just really sink into their meditation practice or their stillness time. And that was difficult. Nobody wants to have to confront somebody. And I really like this person a lot. And, they have been a student for many years, and those conversations are not easy, but I had to do what was in the best interest of everyone else.
Oh, that could be a whole nother episode. I need to remember that. That is something that we need to do a training for sure on that, because it's so important and it's so hard to use our voice. Like, I did a live stream in my Facebook group, the Yoga Goddess Collective, yesterday about that, how I had to use my voice, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to continue teaching that class. It would have been too draining. Yeah. So all right, Tami, well, thank you so much. Is there any last bits of advice that you'd want to give to a newer yoga teacher, or just someone who's still kind of lacking that confidence?
I think the one thing is that, and I've shared this with other new teachers, is that when you're teaching a class and you make a mistake, you don't have to say you made a mistake. Nobody's going to know that you made a mistake except for you. The only time is maybe if you're training with Crystal and you've given her in advance what you're teaching and you skip something, but nobody else is going to know. Even the most advanced yoga teacher is not going to know that you were planning to do X, Y, Z in that class. Don't say a word. It's okay, because we're human. We're going to make mistakes. And maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it wasn't meant to be there that day.
Exactly.
So
that's a great tip.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Tami. Well, thank you so much for being here. As always, it was a pleasure learning from you and just hearing from your perspective. I can't wait to help everybody through this next year of the Academy. If you are interested in more information on that, please make sure to go to yogagoddessacademy.com/advanced-training. All right. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.